Greetings, students, and welcome to this special edition of The Professor Travel Domestic Edition. My name is Scott. This is the website, vlog, and podcast where you go in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where we go in order to discuss them as a community. Hopefully this will inspire you to travel more and enjoy life more. Now you can find me on any of my social media sites, including theprofessortravel.com. On YouTube and Facebook, you can find me there under The Professor Travel. I'm now available on TikTok at The Professor Travel. If you're on Instagram, you can find me at the_professor_travel. On Twitter, you can find me there at The Professor Travel TR1, or The Professor TR1, excuse me. And then if you're a blogger, you can find me on Blogspot at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, I am very, very excited to have one of my favorite visiting professors back with me, Bill Perry. Hey, Bill, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great, so much. We've had a couple of different conversations in the past on international travel. This will be our first on domestic travel, and
Yeah,
so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. But for my viewers, the students that are out there that are maybe not familiar with your previous vlogs and podcasts, can you tell us a little bit about your educational background and maybe a couple of different countries that you've traveled to?
sure. Well, I did a bachelor's degree in business management, and then followed up with a master's in psychology and a second master's in education, which revolved around adult education and corporate training.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And you've traveled outside the U.S. several times, if I
yeah.
remember
We've
correctly.
been we've been all over the world. Two of my favorite places, I would say, Japan, number one. That's how I held the number one spot since I've been there. And Italy, probably be number two.
And for anybody who wants to know more about his time in Italy, go back to, I think it was October of last year is when we recorded that podcast and vlog. So again, great stuff, great information, great interview, lots of stuff on culinary adventures. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
now with this specific series of vlogs and podcasts that we're going to do, we're going to focus. Obviously, the pandemic has limited a lot of people from doing international travel. So we're going to focus a little bit more on our domestic travel. And specifically, this vlog and podcast is going to deal with Arizona, which is where Billy and his fiancee Sonia live at. So in talking a little bit about Arizona, we have a little bit of history to talk about there. I know prior to the 1950s, obviously, I think it was well, they were obviously the 48th state,
Right.
which they became on Valentine's Day of, do you remember what year that was?
1912. Yeah.
1912? Okay.
Yeah.
And I know also, leading up to this, there was a heavy Native American population. We've had, major events like the shootout at the OK Corral down in Tombstone, Arizona, things like that.
Right.
And then more recently, within the last few years, there have been some events, both good and not so good. Obviously, the attempted assassination of Gabby Giffords comes to mind. That's obviously tragic. But there's a lot of different things that are in terms of recent history out there as well. And anything that really stands out to you?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I grew up in Los Angeles area, Oxnard, California, which is very, very close to LA. And I heard quite a bit about Arizona growing up. And there was a lot of it revolved around civil rights, and uh, Arizona didn't look too good that way, at
Yeah.
least from looking at it from California. Um, I was a huge fan of In Living Color, which was a great comedy sketch show, kind of like Saturday Night Live, just a little more flavor, a little more
Mhm.
hip hop flavor to it.
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, Arizona was a frequent butt of the joke on that. They typically had skits where getting pulled over in Arizona as a black person or as a gay person or as any kind of minority was a common thing. So if that gives you an idea of my idea of Arizona when I was younger. Yeah.
What made you want to move there in the first place? Because I mean, you've been there for like over 20 years now.
After I got out of the army, my family was here.
Okay.
And just decided to stay, because opportunity came up and for a good job, And I took it and been here ever since.
Yeah.
And it turned out to not be, what I thought, uh,
how has your thinking changed with Arizona over
well,
the last few years?
like I said, I really had a bad impression because of the civil rights thing. Arizona had refused to recognize Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
So something I was pretty passionate about, most of my life. It is civil rights, equality in general.
Yeah.
And, so I had kind of a bad taste in my mouth because of that. And I figured it was kind of a racist hick town, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's really not like that. There's areas, and there's definitely issues and things that need to be addressed. But I mean, the greater Phoenix metro area is like a mini LA.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the political climate in just a couple of minutes, because I definitely want to get your opinion on a few of those things. And I know we're going to have some viewers who may disagree in terms of some of the polarizing opinions that we may have on this, and that's fine. We welcome comments. Please, by all means, if you have a differing view,
We're all Americans.
we all want to hear about it. So, and again, by the way, Billy, I should mention, thank you for your service. I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about the geography of the area, because the Arizona desert is legendary for its beauty. Can you tell me a little bit about your general knowledge of the geography of the area, major cities and things like that as well?
Yeah, I mean, well, you have your main population center with about 2 million people is Phoenix. Within Phoenix, you basically, I guess you can call them suburbs of Phoenix. You have pretty major town cities. Biggest one being Mesa, then Tempe, and they're all together. I mean, you walk across the street, you go from Tempe, but there's Mesa, Tempe, Gilbert, where I live,
Mm-hmm.
Chandler, Casa Grande's a little bit further out.
Scottsdale, also like right in the area.
Scottsdale's most people have heard of Scottsdale. They say it's where all the old mafia guys go when they go on a witness protection program, like Sammy the Bull. But it's a pretty affluent area, so it's Fountain Hills. But they're all very close together, But yeah, Arizona's known for an incredible heat. It's the hottest place in the country, but they say it's a dry heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I mean, I did my boot camp in Georgia in August, and there's a definite difference. Which one's worse? I mean, it's a matter of opinion, I guess. They're both pretty rough to deal with.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to pick, I'd go with the dry heat because, at least you're not wet.
I think I agree with you on that. And you and I have both been to Thailand. And so that's an example of the humidity that's like overpowering. And I've lived in Arizona, as you know. I used to work with you.
Right.
And so one of the things that strikes me about the heat in Arizona is that it could be 120 degrees out, which is blistering. I mean, you can literally cook. You have people who, as demonstrations, they will fry an egg on the pavement or on their dashboard. They'll bake cookies just to show that it's possible, and people won't believe them. But if you step under some kind of an awning, all of a sudden, because it's dry heat, it's not as hot anymore. It drops like 20 degrees all of a sudden.
Right. That's true.
So it's much more tolerable.
When you're in Thailand or you're in Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, whatever.
Yeah.
You catch a breeze there, and all of a sudden you feel great. So there's pros and cons.
Yeah, and Arizona is one of the few places that actually has a border with just like it's one of four. It like has a corner. I think it's
right.
The Four Corner Monument is there. Yeah.
Right. Four Corners Monument. Yeah. So it's Arizona, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico.
Correct. And then on the southern border, you have another country, which is Mexico, right there.
Absolutely.
So it's a great opportunity for you to be able to get out, enjoy a lot, and there's a lot of different things to do there. But from obviously the next picture, you can see the beautiful, picturesque Arizona sky is spectacular.
I'll tell you this, and let's see if you agree with what Sonia does. And we've been all over the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, from New Zealand. I've never been to Hawaii. She has, but Arizona has absolutely the most beautiful sunsets of any place on earth that I've been so far.
Okay, so I love Arizona sunsets. I would say the majority of the best sunsets in the world that I've seen are in Arizona. You're absolutely right on that. Once in a while, however, there will be a place where I'll be like, wow, I have to record that because not only is it the sunset, but it's the ambiance of the area. And place that you and I have both gone to, Venice, has just it's extraordinary when you get the perfect sunset and you get the perfect like canals and everything at the same time. So I mean, like art, it's subjective, but I think I would say more consistently, to your point, that Arizona's sky is one of the most beautiful. People travel from around the world to see it. It's
Yeah.
just extraordinary.
Yeah.
But weather-wise, Arizona also has some really unique, very weird weather phenomenon, like something with a funny name. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a couple things. Monsoon season
Mhm.
here, and I don't know if, I mean, it's got to be climate change, but when I first got here in 1996, so I've been here a long time, the monsoons were incredible. I mean, just violent storms, gorgeous, scary, you know, just thick rays of lightning shooting all over. It just, you can feel it crackling electricity in the air. Really, really amazing. That's calmed down over the years. We don't get them as dramatic as they were,
Mhm.
but that's the one thing was the big monsoons. And then what you're talking about is the haboob.
Oh my gosh. Craziest thing I think I ever saw when I was in Arizona. And prior to moving there, I want to say about a month before I moved there, I saw this video that was taken of a haboob that came in that was so apocalyptic. It literally looked like a nuclear cloud was blowing all over.
Right. It
It
looks
was,
like that movie, The Mummy.
yeah, yes, exactly. And it was
There's
like,
no
I-
exaggeration to that,
and it was
except face.
time
And
lapsed. Yeah, it is a strange phenomenon. Explain to my viewers, please, what exactly is a haboob? I mean, it's a funny word, but it
right.
sounds funny, but it's really kind of
But it's pretty
crazy.
serious.
Yeah,
It can be dangerous. Haboob is basically a wall of sand. It's a sandstorm, but it's concentrated and it just rolls in. I guess it's pressure system, whatever, that captures all this sand in it. I mean, it just blankets everything. You know, some places it can cut your visibility down to zero. I've had to stop in the middle of a haboob and
yeah,
pull over.
me
You
too.
know, and I'm one of those guys that like I won't stop unless I have to. So, yeah, it can be pretty serious.
Yeah,
You don't get caught out in it.
I was living in a small area just south of Phoenix for a while, and we were hit by a haboob really quickly. And when that happened, like I couldn't see a foot in front of my car. We had to pull over. There was no other way. And when once the haboob was gone, because it's not that long, it takes maybe about 20, 30 minutes at the most, and it's gone. But then all of a sudden, it's like you realize everybody's on the side of the road, and like now your car is covered in sand, and you just gotta like use windshield wipers, get it off of there, and then you're back on the road. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, I mean, you got to be careful with small children and elderly, maybe with lung problems, COPD, whatever.
yeah, true.
That could be dangerous for them because you are breathing in a handful of sand. It's pretty rough sometimes.
Yeah. Any other really unusual climate activity that you can think of? Because I mean, when I think of like living here, obviously you're a California native. I'm a California native. We live through earthquakes all the time, but there
Yeah,
really aren't that many earthquakes in Arizona. There's not hurricanes. There's not a lot of activity.
yeah.
Tornado wise, you might get like dust devils once in a while, but nothing like, yeah, nothing like a crazy like. I would say
Nothing that does
there's,
damage.
yeah, exactly. For the most part, I'd say it's devoid of those types of things. I mean, there's animal wise, there's obviously rattlesnakes or scorpions, there's black widows, things like that, but nothing really weather wise. Flash floods maybe once in a while,
I mean, yeah, every once in a while, I guess,
but
depending
that's
on
about it.
where you're at. I
Yeah.
guess. Um, I've seen some flooding here in the Phoenix area a couple times. I mean, it made me turn around and go home instead of going to work. So I was like, what damage was done. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's move on to the culture of the people of Arizona. Obviously, there is a huge Mormon
or lack
population,
of, or
or
lack.
lack of. Yeah. I know that there is a huge Mormon population religious-wise that's in Arizona, and there's a strong Native American population as well in the Arizona area. In terms of, am I leaving out any major religious groups that you can think of?
Well, I mean, like anywhere, there's groups. I mean, you don't see them as much, but there's Muslim groups here. There's a decent population. And unfortunately, they have a hard time here for the most part. It's not a very forgiving place for certain folks. Um, you know, being roughly 30% Hopi, Native American myself. The Hopi tribe is here in Arizona. So, I mean, I'm very proud of that. My grandma was, a registered member of that tribe. They're surrounded by the Navajo Nation. So there are a lot of folks out here with Native ancestry and a lot of pride in that. There's a pretty large Mexican community
Mhm.
here, and I know I grew up in a Mexican community in
Oxnard, yeah.
Oxnard and Santa Paula and LA area, and I mean I speak Spanish and kind of grew up with my role models being mostly Mexican men and women, um, so we have a lot of issues here, on the southern border,
Yeah, and
and
we'll talk about that in just a minute too,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I
So I
definitely.
mean, it's something that is close to my heart. Anyway, having grown up in the community, and then that's one thing we're talking about, lack of culture. Just my nice way of saying. I mean, there is another culture here in Arizona, and that's of the people who, um, kind of, I guess, would call themselves Arizona natives, though they're not Native American,
Mhm.
uh, and they're a very nationalistic group of people,
Yeah.
and kind of look at the country as theirs, and that's something that that culture or lack of clashes with many of the others, and that's one of the big issues that we see here in Arizona.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating because you look at things like, obviously when I think of culture, one of the things I think about is art, and there's a really unique opportunity for the Native American art boom there. Obviously, you have Sedona and Jerome, which are major art communities within Arizona, that are beautiful. Lots of gem crafting, especially turquoise in Arizona.
Yeah.
And then obviously Frank Lloyd Wright, one of the premier architects of our ages, lived in Arizona for quite some time, actually.
Yeah, he made it his home, and Arizona definitely celebrates him, as one of those famous residents.
In terms of the languages, though, in the area, I mean, again, I think that kind of links little bit to what you're talking about with respect to the uh, culture and the specific people that are in the area. Obviously, there is a larger than normal Mexican population because we're right on the border with Mexico. So obviously, there is a Spanish flair to a lot of the languages in some of the area, but primarily it's English and Spanish, I think, for the most part. Correct?
Yeah, English number one,
Hmm.
of course, followed by Spanish. Yeah, absolutely. Um, it would be nice if I could say, um, Navajo or Hopi or something is number three, but that would not be true. The populations are far too small, and not everybody in those populations know the language either. So it's kind of a dying art that's a few people are holding on to.
But you know how to speak a little Navajo as well, correct?
I know how to say happy birthday. That's it. I mean,
Would you share that with us?
sure. And I learned this for a lady that I worked with who was like a little sister to me.
Hmm.
She was Navajo. Her fiance who I worked with as well, who was a great buddy of mine. He's, gosh, I want to say the name of his tribe, Nagaranset
Okay.
as well. So it's kind of cool that they ended up finding each other. He's very similar to me. I'm Irish in Hopi. He's Irish in Nagaranset, although I obviously present as Irish, and he presents as native. So it's kind of a cool thing. But anyway, I learned how to say this for my little sister's, adopted little sister's birthday, which was pretty cool. Anyways, it's and forgive me for any Navajos out there. If I butcher it, I do apologize. I learned it with nothing but respect in mind. But it's Bahanosko Niraschi.
Very nice. And that's happy birthday?
That's happy birthday. And
Well done. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm glad we learned something today, above and beyond everything we're already learning. But let's get into talking about one of my favorite topics to talk about with you, and that's food. Oh my gosh, man. Yes. Your culinary review of Italy, like, brought me to tears practically. Because I mean, no, seriously, here, like, okay, so for the viewers who have not seen that, please go back and see it. It's a great review of the different Michelin restaurants that he went to when he and his fiancée Sonia were in Italy. They have another wonderful podcast and vlog where we review Thailand as well and some of the wonderful foods that are there. But in think about home for a moment. Think about Arizona. What are some of the foods that stand out to you in Arizona?
Well, would I say Arizona's like a foodie mecca? No, I wouldn't say it's a foodie mecca, but and there is some foodies here, and the culture is starting to grow. Over the last maybe 5-10 years, it's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some really nice restaurants
Mm-hmm.
out there, and I'll definitely give a few suggestions. Of course, you have a different style Mexican food here, or Mexican food is very regional, by the way. So like you grew up in Southern California, and Mexican food, which is, from a certain part of Mexico, most likely,
Yeah.
And it has a certain taste to it. Here it's different, so it was really difficult for me to adjust to the Mexican food here. Yeah. It took me a while. Maybe it's hard for me to put a finger on, because like there's Mexicans cooking it. Many of the people here are from Mexico, so it's not, you can't say there's any issues with authenticity. It's just,
no, it's like I think you said, it's regional. Like, for example, when I think of California Mexican food, I tend to think of it like what you're saying right now makes perfect sense, because it's like we're getting a lot of things that are coming up the coastline. So you're going to get things like fish tacos, and you're going to get things like taquitos and things like that. Maybe a lot of tacos, but that's fine too. But then when you move over to Arizona, the focus tends to be on things that are a little bit heavier in queso and salsa and mole and things like that, which are a little bit more spicy.
You were talking about like Tex-Mex earlier, like
yeah,
it is very different. More corn and stuff in it than I grew up with. I think Caminos, which is cumin, basically, is something that I was used to in the food I grew up with, which is not as prevalent here. It took me a while to kind of figure that out too. I was like, "What? Something's missing. What is it?" And you know what? It turns out nothing was missing. It was just I was looking at it from a different viewpoint. So once I learned to appreciate, this style, then I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. So yeah, a lot of good Mexican food. You can get native food too. Indian fry bread is delicious.
Yeah.
Navajo tacos, that's basically fry bread, and you make a taco with beans and, different items that you put on it.
Something I never had here in Southern California that I did have a few times while I was in Arizona was pistole.
Pistole.
Yeah.
Pistole. Yeah.
Wait, how am I saying it wrong? I thought it was pistole.
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 Pistole, yeah. Yeah, no tea.
Okay, pistole, which is basically a soup, but it's a Mexican soup, and it's very, very good.
like a meatball soup type
Yeah.
thing. It's almost like if you, like I grew up being fed menudo, and I didn't like menudo, except I loved the sauce.
Mhm.
I loved the soup. I didn't like the hominy, and I definitely didn't like the tripe. So pozole is kind of like you take out the hominy and tripe and put in whatever,
The
you know,
spicy broth and
the
like
meat,
meatballs and stuff like that. Yeah.
pork or whatever, and then you have that. So it's amazing. Even bad pozole is good.
Now, I do want to ask what your top, and again, we're not solicit, nobody's paying us to make references to any specific restaurants, but there are a few that are out there that,
If they want to pay us, then
oh,
we're
by
all,
all means, yeah, I'm down. I'm good. I'm good. Like one of my favorites for anybody who's visiting the Phoenix area, there's a place called Rustler's Roost, which is like right on the top of the hill of Phoenix, where you can see the airport. You can see Sky Harbor Airport from there. It's primarily barbecue. I've had rattlesnake there, which is weird, but if you've ever had fried rattlesnake, that's kind of cool. One of my favorite delis. I mean, it's weird for me to say this because it's like you're thinking, okay, well, I've lived on the East Coast and I've lived all over the place.
Jersey, right? When you're talking about delis here,
Yeah,
Jersey.
yeah. But one of my favorite delis is a small chain deli that's located in Arizona of all places called Chompy's. And Chompy's has like some of the best bagels, some of the best
Your
soup.
latkes, the potato pancakes,
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
delicious.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And in fact, I think I remember we went there when I was leaving your team at one point, and so we had gone there. I think for one reason or another. Anyways,
That's where I met Kevin the first time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so it was again really I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. What are your like top three restaurants that like shine out to you?
Sliders there that were really good, like a kind of like a roast beef slider with the potato pancake on it. Like
Yep.
that was really good. Yeah.
They had a sampler slider thing that had like different types of like, and there was an all on like challah bread, which is like a Jewish bread, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that chop was pretty good. My favorite three restaurants. Wow. Well, my favorite restaurant here is Houston's.
okay,
It's also also known as Hailstone. It just depends on where they're at, whether they're called Houston's or Scottsdale's called Houston's. The one in the Biltmore in Phoenix, that one's called Hailstone, but it's pretty much the same thing. Their barbecue ribs are incredible, and they have a Hawaiian ribeye, which is like a teriyaki ribeye. It's just incredible. Everything you're going to get there is delicious. Their spinach artichoke dip is just out of this world. Key lime pie is delicious. I mean, you can't get anything bad there, you know. So
you could try.
What's that?
You could try. I don't know. You could be very successful.
But yeah, my favorite things are that ribeye, the ribs, which are just about the best in town, as far as pork ribs go. And I also have a sandwich there, that a French dip sub that is just out of this world.
There's another place that's close to the Biltmore that I really like. It's a place called Greek Fest. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. It's a series of Greek. So they're like these little Greek shops that are next to each other. One's like a hair salon, and the other one's whatever. But the whole business community is owned by this one Greek family, and the restaurant, which is called Greek Fest, is owned by the mother and father, and they make all the food. So they can have a day where they have almost no clients in there. They can have a day where it's completely packed. They make fresh baklava. They make whatever that fried cheese is that's amazing, that they like put alcohol on, light it on fire, and everybody goes, whoop! It's just like really amazing. So I mean, there's lots of different cuisine you can get in Arizona that's really good if you know where to look.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a melting pot. You know, believe it or not, for that type of stuff. And every place I've been in the world, when they ask where you're from, we say Arizona. They're like, oh, yeah, Arizona. Like it's in Japan, they went nuts, you know, because like we were cowboys. You know what I mean? Like
Right?
They're like, Arizona's famous. We're like, Tokyo's famous. What are you talking about? But they were really excited about that. um, cab driver in Italy, had been here just,
Hmm.
a couple months before for his vacation, and just kind of drove around, and he didn't like the food, which I don't blame him.
Well,
Said
it's Italy. I mean, come on, man.
he said it was real heavy compared to what they eat, and he's right. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that come out to Arizona from other places, and they bring their food. But yeah, so for barbecue is another thing out here. Little Miss Barbecue, which is on University Drive,
Hmm.
is outstanding. It's incredibly good. There's been some shows on it too, because it's pretty well known.
Hmm.
And that's the place that you'll stand in line for 2 hours to get it, and you will stand in line for 2 hours because it's that good. Their beef ribs are some of the best things I've ever had in life. They're outstanding. Pork ribs are pretty darn delicious too. They're cheesy grits, and I'm not a grits person. Their cheesy grits are just amazing, absolutely amazing. So Little Miss Barbecue is definitely the best barbecue place in Arizona, hands down.
Nice.
A third place I want to try to.
Have you been to Mrs. White's?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ms.
S-
White's pretty solid.
Soul Food in Arizona, they've had some really good options there too, and that's another place I've loved.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to
You can
disagree with.
disagree with it. You can disagree with it. That's
I
fine.
don't know that we have a lot of good options, but the places that are out there are good. Because there's not a whole lot of soul food. Uh, it's just not a big place for that. I don't know why, but it isn't.
What I've
Because
had, I love. I
I mean,
absolutely love it.
name a couple. You got Lolo's and
Lalo's is big. Yeah.
Mrs. White's, and then what else? You have to struggle to think of it. I know Sonia's mom had a restaurant, uh, years ago, over kind of by where we used to work in South Phoenix.
Yeah.
Um, and it was pretty successful. It was just a little rough to do that, and they run a ministry too, so it was it was a lot of work. They had to sell it, but and her mom's probably the best cook I've ever met in my life. But yeah, Mrs. White's solid for $13. You get really good plate of food. Fried chicken, the yams. I
Oh
love
gosh, yeah.
yeah, and they do them just like I like them too. I don't want no marshmallows anywhere near them. And they do them just right.
You're like, there does not deserve to be candy in my fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
So,
And there's, you know what? There's a great chicken wing place. If you like wings, and this is kind of a soul food joint too, a little bit. It's called ATL, which you think stands for Atlanta, but it doesn't. It stands for All the Love.
aw.
And they have 3 locations now, which is cool. But best one was on, it's on Warner and Arizona Avenue. Yeah,
Yes.
in Chandler.
See, so there are a few places that do soul food in the area.
Yeah, yeah. And this is primarily a chicken wing place. And these are the best wings out there. Yeah. I mean,
Very cool. So,
Zips are pretty good too.
mhm.
Yeah, I'd say they're somewhat comparable, but I would go to this place over them any day because they have honey habanero wings, and I love honey habanero sauce. So, yeah. They also have the best fries in town. They look not good. Like if you look at them,
You're like, they're not plated very well.
yeah, they don't look like great, but then you taste them. Oh my God, they are just extraordinary. Something about them, seasoning they put on, whatnot. Ooh, they're just incredible. So ATL, remember that.
ATL. Got it. I'm logging that down. ATL. Hold on a second. Then, because we could talk for hours on food. Let's move on though, because I mean, you got a couple of sports teams out there too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Arizona has a few. The Arizona, the Phoenix Coyotes is a hockey team. They were, gosh, I think they're a Canadian team, and I know there's a hockey fan out there. I'm a boxing fan. I'm not a hockey fan so much. I did follow the Coyotes for a while though, when Rick Tocchet was playing, and Javi Bulin, all them. So there may be a hockey fan out there mad at me for not getting this right, but I think they were the Canadians, maybe the Montreal Canadiens or something like that. Anyway, they came down here. They pretty much disbanded them and made them the Coyotes,
Mhm.
which was a great move because Arizona got behind them. And, one thing about people here in Arizona is they want to have a home team to root for, And then, we saw that when the Major League Baseball expanded
Mhm.
and we got the Diamondbacks and they made it an Arizona themed team. Everybody got behind them and they got tons of money thrown at them, which was great because they won the series, 2 years after
Pretty quickly, yeah.
being, created, which was just awesome.
Who's their American League team? Do you know?
What's that?
Do you know if I think the Diamondbacks are National League? Who's their American League team?
I have no idea.
No.
I really don't watch baseball.
Okay then.
If no one's getting punched or kicked, I typically ain't.
That's true. You're more into MMA stuff, so.
Yeah.
Cardinals are the football team, though.
Yeah, and the Cardinals are the football team. And you see the difference. Cardinals came over from St. Louis. They didn't change them. I really thought they should have disbanded them like they did the Titans. They were the Houston Oilers.
Mm.
And then they went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Changed them up, became the Tennessee Titans, and everybody got behind them. Well, people have a hard time getting behind the Cardinals for some reason, because they're not necessarily the Arizona team.
Mm-hmm.
People really want them to be. So, I thought if they would have disbanded the Cardinals and made them I don't know, Phoenix Firebirds or something like that, it would have been much, much better. But
so
anyway.
Own that. And then I don't think there are any specific state holidays for Arizona that really stand out to me. I mean, at least not when I was there. Do you remember anything, or am I just not?
No.
Okay.
The only holiday issue we got, I don't know if you want to talk about this now, but is Arizona being
Martin Luther King Day.
Infamous for rejecting Martin
Luther
King.
We'll hold on to that because I do have a section on civil rights that I want to get into in just a few minutes. But the population for Arizona in general is pretty sizable. I think it's over 7 million.
7.2 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 2 million of those are just right in the Phoenix area alone.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's Phoenix is this huge. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Los Angeles. It's this huge in the middle of nowhere. It's this huge sprawling metro that's right there. It's got a major airport. I mean, it's huge. And it's
probably one of the best organized airports in the world that I've been to.
One of the nicest, actually, too. The people there are actually really, really polite.
Yeah. Much better than LAX,
You're not going to get any argument from me on that.
LAX can be a nightmare, so yeah.
But as far as I mean, there's also some rural communities that are out there, too.
Before I forgot. I mean, we have the Phoenix Suns, too. We didn't even mention
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally forgot about them.
Which have been around forever, and, the ladies team, the Mercury, the Phoenix Mercury, they've been, I think they've been instrumental in bringing women's basketball to the forefront. I don't hear about any other groups really. Mercury's pretty out there.
I hear about the Sparks. As far as women's basketball goes, Sparks is one I heard a lot about. There was one in Los Angeles that was really big too that I know for a while. It was out there, and I'm trying to remember, but it's eluding my brain right now. And me and sporting the sport of the sport of the sport and talking about stuff like that. I'm a bowler. That's what I do. Sorry. So it is what it is for me.
And is your big sports movie, right?
Well, yes, exactly. So, and that in Lebowski, but whatever, that's just me. So then we get into, again, population centers.
Rural communities.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of reservation area out here. Like I said, the Hopi live on a very small plot of land right in the middle of the Navajo area. But you have a few tribes out here. And of course, you have outlying areas and small places. There's a couple towns that we like to go to for little staycations. One is Jerome, and you mentioned that earlier. It's kind of a hippie, artsy community out in the middle of the desert, and I mean, you go into town, it's nothing but art galleries, and music places. It's really cool. The lead singer of Tool and a Perfect Circle, Maynard James Keenan,
Hmm.
he lives out there, and he has a couple shops, a winery. Um, One of his bands called Pussy Fur has like a swag shop there, and we actually bought some of the stuff because it's really cool. I think I got a beanie, and so you got like a hoodie or something. Like, man, it's just cool stuff. Um, you can get a lot of like good balsamic vinegars there, and olive oil is
Hmm.
real good there. So we have some, and
Yeah.
we'll pick up some every time we go to Jerome. It's a fun place to be. There's a great place to eat there called Haunted Hamburger, which sounds a little weird, but the food is really good.
Haunted hamburger.
Really good. Yeah, pretty delicious.
Awesome.
Um, let's
And
see. Prescott is another place we really like to go to. Quaint little town with a nice little town square.
yeah.
Almost reminds me of Back to the Future, a little town square with the clock type thing.
Oh,
It has
nice.
an old civil building as the center of this park, and that's just really cool.
I noticed that with Old Scottsdale too. I mean, there was that whole like little downtown feeling where you go there and you can get that
Mhm.
from there too. So I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that Phoenix in general and the general environment in that area has a lot of really distinctive looking structures, and even the homes in general are very stylized towards Southwestern in some cases, and it's a look. It's definitely a look that goes along with a lot of that stuff there. So I mean, there's stuff, but I mean, in terms of the
I was
major,
going to say, in Prescott, there's a couple of places that I want people to know about that are there.
yeah,
Uh, Prescott Brewing Company.
mhm.
They have no brewery there, but it's not the beer that I go there for. It's the food. It's off the chain. Their fried fish is extraordinary. It's so good. But they got a couple dishes. Like, again, this one of those places, nothing there is bad. Like, everything's good, but the fish was extraordinary. I had a fried catfish po' boy. That was probably the best po' boy I've ever had. Um, and they
Have
got
you
some cool stuff. Like, they had an avocado ranch, which seems like simple, but gosh, it was so good. They also have a pizza joint there that's incredible called Bill's Pizza. It's not mine, but you know,
you'll take credit. Why not?
that place is delicious. So I mean, it's a cool place. You can go there, have lunch at Bill's Pizza, have dinner at Prescott Brewing Company. There's another place I haven't been there yet, but I hear nothing but good things. I think it's called the Raven.
Mm.
It's like a bar and grill type place. I guess their burgers are really good. So I'll go out check it out.
I've been a little spoiled ever since I got back from Italy. In terms of pizza, I can't find anything in the States that's even close to it at this point.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love New York pizza. I love I love Chicago style. They're both fantastic and they're very distinctive. But for anybody who has had uh, the, just go back to Billy's old, October of last year, his trip to Italy. It's fantastic. In terms of the economy in Arizona, what is Arizona really known for? I mean, obviously they've had a huge mining community for many, many years of copper and stuff like that.
Yeah, by Superior.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of copper mines out there, and I guess that was a big part of industry. Which, can you imagine working a copper mine in this heat? It's like
No.
incredible. Agriculture.
What kind
you
of
know,
agricultural items would they possibly have in Arizona? I mean, like obviously wine is one thing that we've talked about that they have.
yeah, I think that's more of a like a niche market type thing. I don't think they're mass producing it here like they do in California.
Mm.
I mean, it's just too hot for grapes out here.
Corn, I know. I've
Yeah,
seen.
corn and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that Arizona's really known for a whole lot of that.
So what's the
Type.
Arizona economy based on, do you think, primarily?
Um, I, I mean, tourism. Um,
The industry that's in the city, as far as like, I know there's a lot of
there's a lot
educational.
of tech stuff here and a lot of education stuff. So,
Yeah.
of course, University of Phoenix is a huge entity,
Mhm.
not as big as it used to be, but, it kind of pioneered the whole distance learning thing and online stuff, which Now
Yeah.
every school is online, you know. And University of Phoenix, I know they helped all the major Ivy League
Yeah.
schools, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. They actually helped them develop their online programs.
Yeah.
So, that's a huge industry. There's like GoDaddy and PayPal and a lot of these, digital services out here.
Hmm.
Um, so I'd say that's probably the main thing.
Okay. What about as far as transportation and infrastructure? I remember when I was out there, there was some traffic issues and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Traffic's rough. Phoenix traffic. Like I said, it's the mini LA.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I always joke about LA traffic. At least it moves. Like you're bumper to bumper, but you're going 60 miles an hour. It's scary,
Yeah.
but you're moving. Here, like they're not moving, so it's rather annoying. But your weights may not be as bad as LA or San Francisco, trying to get across the bridge or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is pretty rough.
But there is a light rail system in downtown Phoenix, is there not?
Yeah, there is. It's got a lot of detractors, though. Like proponents say it's great for, if you want to go to the baseball game, you want to go see the Diamondbacks or the Suns play, and maybe people are drinking and they get on the light rail instead of driving, so it's good for safety or whatever. But the opponents of the light rail just say it's kind of a waste because it doesn't go to enough places. You spent a lot of money on it, and it doesn't really get a lot of people around the city.
Yeah.
So it's I've heard this weird thing that almost like a conspiracy theory about it being purposely designed bad, so it would fail. I have no idea why that would be, but who knows what politics or state government or whatever. But
as we mentioned earlier, though, Sky Harbor, the airport, is probably one of the best in the country. It's really a well-designed airport, very efficient, very efficient.
My favorite airports in the world. As far as they get around in, it's really easy. It's obvious what to do. One of those things, like if you're rushing to the airport, if you're in LAX and you're rushing, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? If you're late, you're in trouble. Phoenix, you're going to make it. You know what I mean? You'll get there. Just the way Sky Harbor's laid out, it's a great airport. So I'll give it that. Train depots, who knows? I don't really take the train out here. It's not something it's known for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but obviously, the big draw for tourism in the state of Arizona is the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon, yeah, and trains do play a part in that. People do take some trains out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Grand Canyon, Antelope Valley or Antelope Canyon Valley, something like that. Mm-hmm. That's a cool spot people like to go to.
As I mentioned earlier, Tombstone. As you mentioned, also Sedona.
Yeah, Sedona. That's a huge place. Red Rocks out there. They have some good places to eat out there as well.
Just fantastic stuff. Now, the governor of your state right now is Steve Ducey or Doug Ducey. I'm sorry. Yeah. C. Yeah. And you guys are, although I think the mayor of Phoenix is not Republican, they are Democratic, correct?
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. Okay.
And so it's kind of odd, and we had.
And in fact, the state senator, or not state senator, but one of the senators, Kirsten Sinema, she is Democratic, and right now Martha McSally, who is acting senator, is up for re-election against Mark Kelly, who is the former astronaut.
The former astronaut and war hero.
Yeah.
So yeah, good luck. Martha McSally was somebody who lost to a Democrat in a red state, and it hasn't happened in 30 years. And she lost to a bisexual Democrat in Arizona. Yeah. So I don't think Martha McSally stands a chance of beating Mark Kelly. Democrat or not, he's a He's a decorated war
Well,
veteran.
and one of the things I obviously,
Astronaut.
apart from being an astronaut, his wife Gabby Giffords, unfortunately, there was an attempted assassination on her life. She survived, and they are, oh my gosh, they're such a beautiful couple. I love them together. They're just a really heartwarming couple together.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, at least she's alive, and I'm happy about that. In terms of resources, we talk about some of the things that the state is known for. Obviously, copper mining. There are a lot of casinos, especially Native American casinos that are there. I think of like Talking Stick Resort. I think of
And
um, there was a Harrah's right next to my place over in just south of Phoenix. So I mean, I literally had 4 miles to drive, and then boom, I was there. Wild Horses is another one that's down there.
Wild Horse Paths.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And which, by the way, if you go to that area, you will see wild horses off just past the distance. So I mean, it's really kind of cool to see stuff like that. But in terms
It's
of,
funny, Adina Howard, if you know her, she had some very provocative R&B songs back in the 90s.
Mhm.
Just look up Adina Howard. You'll remember the songs once you start hearing them. She has great success. She's a chef at Wild Horse Pass now.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool, actually.
Yeah.
It's amazing how people have that little change in their lives and stuff like that. All right, very cool. But I don't know that there's anything like that comes out of Arizona that you're like, oh my gosh,
Well,
like,
what's the state known for? I mean,
yeah.
the heat, the desert. It's a classic desert. Wile E. Coyote was chasing the Roadrunner in Arizona. That's, you know what I mean?
That is pretty much what it is, yeah.
Well, it was what it is. Like even the landmarks they tried to put up were of Arizona, which is funny. So we've all seen Arizona. You'll see the cartoons, at least people of our generation. But yeah, it's known for the desert, the heat, these humongous floral cactuses, which are extraordinary when you're next to them. They're massive. It's like, how big can a cactus be? Well, it can crush your house if it falls on it.
Yes. And it's so weird because we don't think of it in terms of a cacti being like the size of a tree.
Yeah.
When I mean tree, I mean like a tree, something like massive. But yeah, they're pretty sizable and girthy and stuff like that. So they can cut you. But shifting over conversation a little bit, talking about civil rights. Obviously, there has been some points of contention. You made reference to it earlier with when Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday in January was being rolled out. There were a lot of opponents in Arizona who said, we're not going to have this in Arizona. We're going to boycott this.
The leadership was, blatantly racist, and they weren't hiding it, and they unfortunately had a lot of support, from the other culture, I guess you would call it here, that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I don't get where they're coming from. I don't think I ever will. Civil rights has been something I've been pretty passionate about my entire life. And it's just odd to see people think that way,
Yeah.
Just the fact that we're not arguing for superiority, we're arguing for equality, we just want everyone to be treated the same.
Yeah.
And people that oppose that, and how can you oppose that,
Well, you're going to have people opposing it on the basis of, well, these aren't U.S. citizens, for example. That's one thing that comes across. You have people who say, yeah, I respect Native American rights, but
no.
This is the United States now, and that was then, this is now, and they're members of the United States. So
is the attitude, and this stuff wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Rather it's racial equality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago that me and my fiance couldn't get married. If you think about it, in my parents' lifetime, my parents, not my grandparents, my parents. I mean, the movie Loving.
Yeah.
had to do with that. And in Virginia, you know, in the 60s, which I wasn't quite born yet, but, you know, my parents were, that was their time, you know, and that was,
And you're talking about the case of Loving versus Virginia.
yeah. And it was against the law. Like, are you kidding? You know, I mean, we have a problem with systemic racism, you know, in this country. And a lot of people don't want to see it. A lot of people here in Arizona definitely don't want to see it or admit it, that it's there. I think that's the first step. You got to admit that it's there. I mean, obviously, you know, regardless of my mixed heritage, I obviously look like a white dude, you know, and I benefit from all the privilege that comes with that. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Being a Jewish gay man,
Yeah,
yes, I understand.
right. You know, I mean, and if they don't know that, then you're cool, right? I mean, you're gonna get it until they find out.
Yeah, unfortunately, white privilege is one of those things. And you know, I teach cultural diversity, and so one of the things that I hear from a lot of my students is they tend to focus on race being the number one thing in the class as a talking point, with gender being a secondary thing, maybe sexual orientation being another. But things, things that we don't in terms think about are that come up in terms of civil rights as well are socioeconomic differences, you know, the poor versus the rich and things like that too. And that's another challenge that comes out there too. There's so many things that are prevalent in the society. One of the things that really I remember, another big thing from a couple of years ago, and I know we were going to talk about this in a couple of slides, but since we're talking about civil rights right now,
Sure.
talking in terms of the Papers, Please law that was developed, where you had to show your birth certificate if you were pulled over in some cases if you looked different, and so
Yeah, and if you were brown, you
yeah.
know, basically, if they saw somebody they thought was Mexican, you know, they can demand their citizenship papers or whatnot. And I mean, it's horrifically racist, you know. And
Yeah,
I mean,
it's profiling basically.
and the person that what was his name, Steve something or other, um, he's in Trump's administration right now. Actually, the person who wrote that.
Steve Mnuchin.
No, no, it wasn't him. We'll
Okay.
have to look. We'll have to look it up. But I remember.
Oh, Stephen Miller. I think his name is Stephen
Yeah,
Miller.
I think you're right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at the time I was a regional manager for a finance company, and 99% maybe of my employees were single young mothers, Mexican females that worked for me there. And I mean, I gave them the day off to go protest. You know, it was like we ran with a skeleton crew. I went in and helped out, you know, on the front lines there to make sure we had enough room for people to go out and do that. And you know, we did it in shifts to where we can go march, and it was just such an important thing. You know, on that day, money didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was more
No,
important to,
believe me, I get it, especially, having the different types of situations that we deal with on a regular basis. So yeah, there's a spotty record. But I mean, I want to stress that over the last few years, there have been some improvements to the way that people are seen. There is still a struggle out there in some ways, but just as much as there's a struggle on one hand, there's now a very vocal other side to this equation that's going out there in order to try and help out and
yeah,
make sure that people are being heard.
We've had the largest protest in history,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's worldwide now. You know, hopefully
Yeah.
it'll continue. You know, I mean the Civil Rights Act in 1968. It took 10 days of protesting. You know, for that to that bill to get signed.
Yeah.
We've been far past that. I think the other side is far more stubborn about it. because we have a president that's encouraging white nationalism openly, so it's, there's no badge of shame that it used to have, and now it's pretty much, a source of pride for some of these folks.
And I know this is going to be a divisive topic, and so again, I encourage my students out there, be respectful. Feel free to speak your mind. Totally fine, but again, please be respectful of everybody's opinions on this.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I mean, we're all Americans, and we got to find a common ground.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's certain things that we can have discourse on. I mean, certain things we can argue. Certain things we could debate with civility and respect. Racism isn't one of them. Equality is not one of them. Everybody should be treated, the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to demand that.
Yeah. Nope, I agree. All right, let's move on to a couple of other topics before we get going. I know that science was a big area that we talk about, especially in Arizona. In fact, at one point you guys had the biosphere. That was a big thing for a while. Did you ever do any research on that at all, or had you ever seen anything about it?
No, that was a little before my time. I know Sonia had visited, and she said it was just really cool. It raised a lot of awareness in Arizona, believe it or not. And California, because we heard a lot about it, growing up. And then Pauly Shore did the movie about it.
That's right. I believe we got a Pauly Shore reference on our podcast.
Yeah, but she has a brand new movie that just came out. That was wow.
He's still doing stuff, huh?
I don't even want to plug it, but yeah. It was good to see Pauly.
Awesome. In terms of other scientific advancements or anything, I know that you had a couple of tech companies that were out there for a while. Intel was out there for a while. Motorola, as I know you know about. Yeah. I mean, there's been
we have the Arboretum too.
Out
right before you get to Superior.
Yes.
Around Globe area, the Arboretum is a wonderful place. For botany. I guess it's a center for botany, but it has a lot of other cool stuff too there because they open it up for lots of stuff. Sonia and I have done some photography classes out there. They just have a ton of different activities, but they have different habitats set up.
Have you gone to see it at night?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, that is a nighttime photography class there.
That is something, if ever you go to Arizona, students, take a look at that. It's really fantastic the way they put it together. I don't know that they do it all year round. I think they do it like for a couple months out of the year.
This is the place you were talking about, the house in the side of the cliff.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, whenever I go there and I see that little house, just imagine, can you just fathom what it was like living in that thing in the middle of August?
No, not in Arizona. Absolutely not.
Yeah. That was just incredible. But the place is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You go from just one habitat to the next, to the next, to the next. It's cool. They have eucalyptus forest out there too. And it's like, that's something we see in Cali.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to education in your state. Now, obviously, there are a lot of colleges out there, but K through 12, there's some challenges there.
Okay, yeah. So university level, I think is.
And you and I both worked for a university together.
Absolutely. So we have, a lot of private universities out here that are pushing the innovation button. We have great state schools. ASU is fantastic. U of A is fantastic. NAU is fantastic.
Yep.
Northern Arizona University.
Yeah.
So the college level is great. K through 12, I mean, we have 50 states, and Arizona ranks number 47 in education. So
And that's according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about politics and whether you're red or blue, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. But we could criticize it for being a red state and that being a low priority or not. But whatever the reason is, it's got to change. 47. Like, what you're doing is not working. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
I know a
it's
lot
tough.
of teachers, K through 12 teachers here.
Mhm.
One of our mutual friends, one of my best buddies in life, his wife's a K through 12 teacher, and I mean they're just incredibly underfunded. You know,
Yeah,
they're spending their own money on necessities.
supplies. Yeah, just for the students, it's kind of crazy. I know the healthcare system in Arizona also is hit or miss too, depending upon where you're at. Dignity Health is a pretty large organization in that area, but and obviously, I mean, there's a world-renowned healthcare system out there through the Mayo Clinic, which is huge, and
Greatest research center in the country, maybe, along with John Hopkins and all
mhm.
that.
Yeah,
Sure.
and then I think Cancer Centers of America has something out there as well. There's a few places that are in terms of health and wellness that are really big out there, but they're kind of the outliers
Yeah.
in general. I feel.
Yeah.
So in terms of an overall
Don't get
view,
hurt out
yeah.
here.
Well, but here's the thing: if we're traveling to if we're on vacation and we're traveling to Arizona, I don't have a problem with saying, okay, well, there's a lot of hospitals. I don't have a problem with going to a hospital. They have general health knowledge.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you have a major health situation, that might be something that you might want to, like, if you got a cancer scare, or if you've got um, other really critical needs, specialty critical needs issues, you might want to get a review at home from your local physician or something like that, unless it's
That,
through one
that,
of those places like the Mayo Clinic or something like that.
yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't do that anyway, but you know. um, well, one thing. Did you want to talk about some of the activity stuff yet, or?
In terms, yeah, you know what? Actually, let's talk about communication really quick. I want to get into activity in just a little bit, okay? But in terms of communications and the infrastructure there, Arizona is pretty beefed up in terms of it's got a pretty robust communication structure. I mean, it's got internet everywhere, so that's not
Yeah,
major.
I don't have any issues.
Yeah.
Here with that. There's cell towers all over the place. Um, you know,
Talk to me about activities. Let's talk about it now, since some of those activities involve communication and digital
sure.
places.
As far as like of course everybody's big thing now, especially during COVID time, is binging shows.
Yes.
So we're all looking at that. But I mean, as far as cable goes, there, growing up in California, you had a lot more choices. There's more players in the game
Yeah.
than there's out here. You have maybe one huge player and then a couple other little things out here.
Yeah.
So like you might have one big company that kind of holds a monopoly, and it's not called a monopoly because
That would be illegal.
right, but there's ways around calling them up. And maybe it's the area, that it's in. I don't know, but you're at the mercy of one big place out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure.
But in terms of activities, like when you're not in the middle of a pandemic, like what are some of the activities that you think of in terms of Arizona that a tourist might want to come and see?
Yeah, the big thing here is hiking.
Mm.
Hiking is there's tons of trails out here, and I mean, not too many people are going to hike during the summertime. And our summer really goes from
It's 8 months long.
It is.
It really is, because you have like 2 months that are moderate. You have 2 months that are actually a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
And then every other month is just
I go there, but
hot. Yeah.
you got towards last half of April is pretty much summer.
Yeah.
And then you have until maybe the last week of September, early October.
Yeah.
That's summer, and it's pretty darn hot. And then from November to April is paradise. It's wonderful here. It's shorts weather all the time.
I'm actually a little bit surprised, because I wanted to say there were times where I was awake, and like you and I, we used to work we would come in when it was dark. Sometimes it was like crazy early in the morning.
5 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then we would have it to where there might be ice on the ground in some places because it is a desert, and like January, February timeframe or late December, January, it's still winter. And winter is winter, regardless of whether you're in a desert. And by the way, being in an open desert, it can get very cold, very, very, very cold.
Yeah, for sure. It's the coldest it's been here since I've been was 22 degrees.
Yeah.
This one night, and I was like, wow. And I hadn't been here that long. I think it was the first year I was here, I want to say. So I was shocked. But I mean, that rarely happens. You know what I mean? But and during the day, it's never cold. I mean, that's going to be, middle of the night, early morning, like when you said it's still dark.
Yeah. What are some of the best hiking spots that you would recommend to people that are coming out to visit?
Well, it kind of depends. They're all over. In the Phoenix area, there's one solid one. Let me see. I got a little cheat sheet because I can never remember the name of it. Pinnacle Peak.
Pinnacle Peak. Okay.
Yeah, that's 3,100 feet at the top.
Okay.
So it's like a go up, go down, back up, back down. You know what I mean? And it's a very nice trail, very properly maintained. Sorry, I got the hiccups.
That's okay.
Yeah, properly maintained. And it's fairly tough. I mean, the first time I went on it, I wasn't prepared for it. And yeah, it was a rough trail. So now I could do it no problem because I know it's coming, I guess, So I'd say it's moderate, really, But if you're not used to hiking, watch out. That one's gonna be tough.
And by all means, please, students, if you are ever going out to this place, please make sure you have sun protection. Make sure you're wearing a hat. Make sure you're well hydrated. Make sure that you do everything you can in order to protect yourself from the sun, because that is a serious element in Arizona, and it will suck the water right out of your body.
And you don't want to be one of the people on the news, getting helicoptered out because you didn't bring water or something. That would be embarrassing.
Just bring a backpack with water in it, please.
Bring a CamelBak. Like I, regardless of whether we really need it or not, maybe it's a small hike. I always bring a CamelBak, with water in it.
And for those who are not familiar with a CamelBak, is that like a canteen that's attached to your back?
That's right. So it looks like a little backpack,
mm-hmm.
and it's got a bladder in it with a drinking tube.
Okay, cool.
But I mean, even if you just bring some water with you, do that, but never go without being hydrated. And, drink a good quart of water before you go on the hike, I mean, that's just fundamentals there for sure. If you're going on a longer hike, take something to eat with you, like a little something for energy. It could be like a little candy bar or a protein bar, something.
Something that won't melt typically.
Yeah.
Protein bars are good. Chocolate candy bars might not be so good. I mean, obviously you want energy, but still, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I am over here on the East Valley, so I live in Gilbert. There's, I'm a member of the national park thing out here to where, I can go hiking whenever I want, whatever. You pay them a yearly fee.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cool section out here right off the Hunt Highway. There's a trail out here called Gold Mine, which is pretty moderate until you get to the peak of it, and then it's like straight up for like a quarter mile. So it's a pretty moderate, good exercise trail until you hit that, and then it's just it's rough, so it gives you a great workout.
I do want to ask you really quick on the notion of safety and security when you're doing hiking. Do you have to bring anything with you, like pepper spray or something? Because you obviously I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about more like wildlife that might come into your area.
Yeah, I've never seen anything other than a snake.
Okay.
I've seen a snake cross the trail, but it wasn't trying to hurt anybody. It was just trying to get across the trail.
Okay.
We just stopped and let it go. As far as safety goes, the best thing I can tell you as far as that is, don't wear headphones, you know, and if you're one of those people that just can't do any activity without it, cool, just wear one headphone then. Leave the other one open, because rattlesnakes will warn you. And that's the one thing you don't want to mess with, the rattlesnake. You know, if you get bit by that, you're in trouble. So, you know, if you hear a rattlesnake, stop immediately, figure out where it's coming from, go the other direction.
Yeah.
You know, because if they're rattling, they're just trying to tell you stay away, you know. Yeah, so that's my main safety tip, is don't have your headphones going to where you can't hear what's going on.
Yeah.
McDowell Mountain is another Mount Phoenix area. There's a ton of trails out there. Very cool place. You can pick different levels of you know, intensity out there. And I mean, there's trails all over the place. Camelback Mountain.
Camelback's the big one I always heard about, and they have some really lovely homes up in the Camelback area too.
Yeah, and you can see Camelback from Pinnacle Peak too, so it's right there. The Camelback's probably the most popular trail.
Yeah.
Right now during COVID, if you're going to go hiking, like, I would stay away from Camelback. There's too many people there, you know, and you guys are exerting yourself. Just some people think, oh, I'm outside, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does matter. And having worked at Motorola and learned what I learned about particles that come out of your body, you know, 'cause we had to protect our product from particles. So we took all these, like, you know, classes.
Yeah, you were wearing PPE way before it was required. So
yeah. And I just learned, like, we would record ourselves talking to each other in slow motion with particle, you know, capture equipment.
you can see the expelled stuff.
Yes. And first of all, 6 feet isn't far enough. They're just saying that so you'll at least do that. If I'm talking to you 6 feet, I'm going to hit you. With little chunks of my lung, mucus, all that kind of stuff, saliva that's coming out of my mouth. When I blink, chunks of my eyeball go into your face. That's just the way it is when we talk to each other.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, because it's like the human body sheds skin cells and all kinds of cells, and it's regenerating itself over the course of, I want to say, about 6 months every year, like completely, right. 100% regenerates. So
yeah. So anyway, imagine that you're exerting yourself and you guys are walking by each other, you're walking behind them and they're breathing back a bunch of crap. Like, it's not safe to do that. So
speaking of safety, in terms of the pandemic, Arizona is not doing too hot right now.
No, Arizona has so many people that decide what we hear out here all the time is, we're not sheep. It's like, come on, man. Like, never mind the politics of it. Like, just knowing what I know from working at Motorola and around all the particulates and all that, like, I understand that the masks are important. You know what I mean? And Arizona is number 2 worst in the country right now, behind Florida.
Yeah. Because
people are saying, well, we're not sheaves, and masks don't help because they found some article online or something. You know, I mean, I'd rather listen to scientists and my own personal experience from working with a, you know, huge company that dealt with particulates than some dude, you know, who looks up stuff on.
Well, let me ask you a question, and with your knowledge of particulates and your knowledge about having worn PPE in the past, when you have someone that comes up to you and says, "I'm sorry, I can't breathe in this stuff. It's really restrictive." How do you talk to that person?
Well, I mean, you say, well,
because you were wearing it for like 12 hours a day.
I give my experience. Like, my family has lung issues, and I haven't really had a ton of them, but I don't have the best lung capacity ever. You know what I mean? I wore 3 levels of masks. So I wore like a bouffant style mask, a surgical mask, and then a hooded mask that covered everything but my eyes for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Okay. Mm-hmm. I breathe just fine. You know, when we've gone hiking, I wear a mask and I breathe just fine. Like, it's in your head. If you know what I mean, you're going to be just fine. And those people that I see that wear those little things that I don't know. They're
They're like bandana type of
kind of like a
thing.
bandana thing.
Yeah.
There's one layer of cloth that doesn't do it. You may be cutting out 10% of it. But, like my mask has 2 layers of cloth and a surgical mask that slides in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, that maybe is cutting 80%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's better than, and remember, I'm wearing my mask to save you from the chance of getting it. So I'm reducing your risk.
Well,
I expect you to reduce my risk by wearing a mask.
There are going to be people who obviously, based on their politics, might disagree upon the whole nature of that.
Yeah, and that's true. And I wish they would see it differently. Unfortunately, we have a president that decides to kind of work on that, and people want to listen to their president. And if the president says it, I'm going to do it. And it's an unfortunate time, but I wish people would see it kind of for what it is and stop worrying about the politics part of it. Like obviously the state is second worst and Florida is the worst for a reason.
Yeah. If there's anything that can be done, I mean, you obviously want to try and do something to mitigate the damage.
We imagine if everybody just went ahead and did what was suggested, we'd probably be out of it by now. You know what I mean? They're holding it back by doing that. So I wish they would see that. Yeah.
By the way, I want to talk really quickly to you about some of the challenges in Arizona, because when I originally was going to head out there, I mean, I kept hearing these stories about crime is so terrible in Arizona. There's people decapitated in the middle of the desert and stuff like that. I mean, there are terrorists who come up through the southern border. Any word on that you're aware of? Because you've been living there a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, since 1996. Mm-hmm. And no.
You're like, just no, not.
Well, I think there's a lot of fear mongering, especially when it comes from the southern border, because there's a lot of politics tied to it. People want to, harsher border control. So they say terrorists are coming up, and I don't know, maybe it's possible, but most people that come here illegally do so on a plane.
Yeah. And
they don't come up to the southern border. They can easily come from wherever they're going to come from and just overstay their visa.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a whole lot of truth to it, at least not what I've seen. Headless in the desert. I mean,
you haven't heard about it, or you haven't seen it on television in terms of anything like that.
Other than I've heard that urban legend type thing. Yeah. But two more
sure.
Trails that I wanted to mention real quick before we go, because they're pretty big. They're all East Valley,
okay,
Far East Gold Canyon area. Mm-hmm. There's one called Peralta Trail.
Peralta Trail? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably the most beautiful trail I've hiked on. It was 11 miles total.
Okay.
And which was the longest one I've done. And it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And from that trail, you can see the toughest hike in Arizona that I've heard of. I mean, there's probably some hardcore hikers listening to this going, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then there's probably some tougher hikes, but there's a hike out there called Flatiron.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's infamous for being a really tough hike. I mean, the last, I don't know how long, but the last push up there is actually climbing. So it's a pretty rough one.
Very cool though. Lots of good stuff though.
Yeah, but hiking here is fantastic as long as you're not doing it in the summer.
That's true. And if you are, please be very cautious. Now, before we go, I definitely want to touch base on your YouTube channel, because you've got some great travel stuff on there. I love you did a series on when you guys took a trip to Australia as well, which was awesome. Sonia is a photographer by trade, in addition to the normal work that she does too, within the university that we both used to work at as well. But you're also her assistant as well as that goes too, which is awesome. And so you guys have a wonderful YouTube channel called Weeby, that you can find information about not only on YouTube, but on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, you guys are Weeby Tweet Scene, which I thought was hilarious. Do you want to give a quick plug about your channel?
Yeah, the whole Weeby thing is there's a Ice Cube song called "We Be Clubbin',"
Hmm.
and so when we first met, I don't remember which one of us did it, but we made a reference to that, and the other one was like, "Oh yeah," and got the reference, and that was a big spark for us. So we ended up calling it Weeby because we be hiking, we be camping, we be fishing, whatever it is, we be traveling. That's our whole thing, right?
Hmm.
So that's why we called it Weeby. And you can find that on YouTube. We have a ton of videos on there. Um,
And you're also starting to use drone footage as well.
yeah, yeah. So
Very
yeah,
cool stuff, by the way.
in Italy, we decided to do that, and yeah, we have videos on Sydney, um, uh, Bondi Beach, and these are in Australia,
Hmm.
all over New Zealand, northern New Zealand, Waiheke Island.
Thailand, I know.
Yeah, then we went to Thailand, and the drone footage was in Italy, so we have some, Italy videos. So go check them out, and
They're beautiful.
feel free to is give us some feedback. I really want to know what you guys think. Even if you don't like them, like let me know that you like them. Let me know why. Whatever I can do to improve is important. So feel free. I mean, I'm not saying go on there and be disrespectful.
No, but I
But
every time.
be real.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't like the way you did this or the way you say that. Like, I'm totally, appreciative of that stuff. So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you again for doing this, by the way. This is really amazing to hear about your information on Arizona. I definitely love your channel. You'll see me on there from time to time commenting, so I like that stuff. You guys do just a great job. So keep up the
Yeah,
great work on that, okay?
no problem. One last bit of advice I
Please.
say, and I don't know why we didn't really talk this much about it, but Scottsdale, I know everybody's heard of Scottsdale, and I joked about it being a place where mafia people retire and go to the witness protection building. It's a cool place, and Sonia and I love doing staycation stuff out there. And Northern Phoenix area, North Scottsdale, Kierland Resort is a
Mm,
place we love to go stay at. Just this is a place that has a father and son team that they work the band. They're Scottish. They do the bagpipes every night at 6 o'clock. You can go out on their patio, have drinks. They have like some tacos too. Like you can order these.
a Scottish Arizona taco place.
Yes, yes. No, it's at this resort. But anyways, the tacos are good. Anyway, but and you can listen to the bagpipes and have a cocktail out there. It's a beautiful resort.
Very
Um,
cool.
you know, Another place we like is the Scottsdale Camelback Resort. We have a timeshare there.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice little spot, and it's right in the middle of downtown Scottsdale, which is just a cool place to go. So like if you want to check out Arizona, you're not sure what to do, go spend a weekend in Scottsdale and check it out. You'll like it for sure.
It's a beautiful
And
community there.
then you can bounce out and look at other stuff.
Well,
Um,
again, there's so many different options there too. What other ones you got?
yeah, the Sanctuary is a
Oh
real
yeah.
place. In Scottsdale, that's where Jay-Z and Beyonce go. They rent a house up there, I guess, and that's we stayed there and absolutely loved it. They have a really nice restaurant there from like a celebrity chef, Bo McMillan,
Mm.
is the executive chef of Elements, which is in there. And it's the view of that place is great. It's up on a hill overlooking the golf course and this canyon. And
I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, by the way. It's
yeah,
amazing.
Korean spare rib there is off the chain. This guy was on. He competed on the Next Iron Chef. He did pretty well, but his food's awesome, and that resort's awesome. In Tucson, the Star Pass.
Oh, heard about
Tucson,
that.
amazing place. Probably has the best jacuzzi I've ever been in. Like right in front of the resort, you can get there's like a pool and a jacuzzi. It's got the best jets ever. I asked Sonia to marry me there.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's a beautiful place to stay. Yeah, so there's lots of cool places with, good resorts here. I would say that's one thing. If you ask me, hey, what's something about Arizona that people don't really know? is there's tons of good resorts out here, places to chill. So
I would say if you're a lover of nature, if you love the desert community, if you love getting into the whole, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to camp outside or do anything like that. There's just a appreciation for the desert, appreciation for the flora and fauna and just that whole environment. There are so many different takes of it, whether it's within the city environments that you have in Arizona or places like the Grand Canyon to Jerome and Sedona, where you have a whole different perspective. Or if you go up to the mountains of Flagstaff, where you get
yeah,
snow and ice and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's so many different things to do in
mhm.
Arizona. I definitely say,
uh, yeah,
give it its due,
that reminds me a hidden gem. I totally forgot about this. There's a place near Superior. If you're going out towards Superior, about maybe 7 miles before Superior, you turn off a road. You have to look yourself for it. Uh, but it's called Ice House Canyon.
Mm,
You go through some dirt roads up into the mountains, and you'll hit another world. When we did it, I want to say it was in January,
mhm.
and it was 48 minutes from my front door to the top of this mountain, and it was snowing. And I mean, like Game of Thrones, north of the
Winter.
wall snowing. It was amazing, and that place is kind of famous for photographers that go up there and take pictures of the changing of seasons because of the type of trees out there. So we've been up in Ice House Canyon quite a few times, and it's a gorgeous place. You wouldn't even think you're in Arizona. But they call it Ice House Canyon because back in the old days, they used to freeze water up there because it was so cold
Mhm.
into big sheets of ice, and they carry it down with wagons.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So cool history.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, again, Bill, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. To my students that are out there, if you have any questions or comments, certainly let me know at scott@theprofessortravel.com. If you like this video and you'd like to be notified when there are new ones on YouTube, click the bell icon right above us here in order to be able to find out and be notified about those. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. If you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, certainly rate us, review us. We really love to hear all your feedback. But until next time, my name's Scott. I am the Professor Travel. Make every day a travel adventure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.